So I'll just explain you what are the differences between those two types of companies and what all might be coming in your colleges, or if you're already having some experience, then what are companies you might have options for. So basically, the service-based companies like TCS, Wipro, Infosys, those basically are outsourcing your work to, like, big companies will outsource their software development work to these companies, and these people will hire you and let you do the work for some other company. Like, suppose some big company like Microsoft is outsourcing some of their products to a company like TCS, then TCS will hire people, get the work done, and when the project is complete, then like they'll find some other client. So it's basically client based, and product based companies are like who have their own product and they'll hire developers for a long term, and they'll like you will be working on one single product for your whole tenure in that company. So how does the coding test differ for both these companies? Basically, the service-based companies will be looking for aptitude or cognitive skills. So mostly the test will comprise of aptitude. Uh, Product-based companies, it is different. They'll look for data structure algorithm skills, basically hardcore coding skills, or your what is that, project development skills, or what all projects you have done previously. So there can be two types of test. One is data structure algorithm test, and the other one is project building. So it's called a take home assignment. So basically some company can give you to build a feature, and you will have 6 hours to 10 hours to do that, and you need to submit your work. Service-based companies mostly will have group discussions, other rounds that are mostly linked with your like overall ability, not your coding skill in general. So that is different for both. There might be exceptions. There are few exceptions. So talking about the type of work, as I discussed, the service-based company, they are like other companies have outsourced their work, and you will be working on single projects. So it will be project-based. Product-based companies, you will be working on one single product for your entire tenure. So in service-based companies, they look mostly for skills related to the project. So if you have some skills related to the project that they are working on, then you have better chances of getting hired. Product-based companies look coding skills in general. They don't really go for project-based skills or particular language skills. So they'll go for algorithm, what all algorithm you know, and how good you are in coding, um, not which languages you know or which frameworks you know. Next point is coming to the salary benefits. Obviously, the product-based companies pay way more and they have better benefits than the service-based, but there are few exceptions. Example I've just listed out. What all exceptions I've listed out in service-based is Freshworks, ThoughtWorks, and Coordination. Though they are service-based companies, but their benefits and salaries are pretty much more than or equal to the product-based companies. Coordination is fairly known for its very difficult coding exams and interview processes. So getting into coordination is pretty hard. ThoughtWorks and Freshworks are pretty similar. So uh, they do hire software developers, but it's on project basis. But these projects are pretty like high level. So they require very skilled developers to work on those. Uh, Coming to the next part, like you might have already known about few of the product-based companies. These are just like few examples: Paytm, Oracle, Oyo, Walmart, big tech companies, product-based, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Those are available in India. Outside India, you'll find Netflix, Facebook, and other companies as well. A few Indian startups that pay really well and require highly skilled developers. Like those, the entrance exam for this companies are pretty hard. They will require pretty high like coding skills, especially in data structure and algorithms. You don't really need competitive coding skills for this one, but you definitely need algorithm skills for this. There are a few US-based startups that recently opened their centers in India. Coinbase, Rubrik, Sprinklers, and Techion Corps are a few of them. So these companies are basically US-based, but they hire from India. Very small amount, but they do hire from India, and they are startups mostly. So Coinbase is the very like new in India. It came last year. It is hiring a lot of people right now. So yeah, the benefits and pay ranges are pretty good compared to the big tech companies like Amazon and Google. Like they pay in the same ranges, and the benefits are also good. Okay, the first thing will like wonder in your college life is what coding language to choose to begin with. So like there is a deep confusion between why you should choose Java, Python, or C++, or anything. So I'll give you a brief of what languages are basically used for what in the software industry. Hmm, Mostly C++ will be used by companies like Amazon, not Amazon, sorry, Microsoft and Adobe for desktop application building, because like Adobe has this Photo Studio or Photoshop, and Filmmaker. Microsoft has all this Windows applications, so they'll use C++ or C Sharp kind of applications. Java is mostly used in web development. So basically, all the web-based companies like Amazon, Google, Flipkart, any other company that is web-based, even Microsoft web services, Azure services, they'll mostly build on Java. So it's a norm that web development is mostly done on Java. But yeah, JavaScript is also used for web development, but mostly front end. There is backend services that are built on JavaScript, like the MERN stack. So um, there is something called MERN stack, which is MongoDB, Express.js, Node.js, and React slash Angular. So this is the whole like full stack that is built completely on JavaScript. So I'll come to that. What is MERN stack actually? That so if you're pursuing JavaScript, then you can concentrate, like you will mostly seek a career in web development. So if you're going for Python, most people I see usually go for Python because it's easy, but like most companies will not be using Python unless it is for machine learning. So people will have, every company will have a data science team that will develop this AI models or machine learning models. They'll use Python. So if you are going for a Python career, then you will mostly end up in a machine learning team. Go, Rust, Ruby on Rails, these are relatively new. So Go is a language by Google, by the way. Rust and Ruby on Rails are mostly open source, if I'm not wrong. So these languages are relatively new. If you want to pick them up, then you might uh, find very less companies using them. So like you can obviously learn them. Like most languages are similar. A few of the syntaxes might be different, but you can definitely learn them. But the scope of getting a company which uses them are very less. Coming to the last one, PHP, HTML, CSS, and WordPress. These are like I would say old stack. So these are not really used. Like HTML, CSS is not a language basically. Any person who is working on the front end will have to know HTML and CSS, but usually it's dealt with other frameworks. There are bigger frameworks that are built on top of HTML and CSS that will use them. PHP is generally used outside of India, not never really in India. Like there are some US based companies or some small website that use PHP right now, but very limited. Like there are a lot of old websites that are built on PHP. WordPress is a like tool kind of thing that you can build websites on. So these are not really in-demand skills. So I wouldn't suggest learning them unless you are learning them just for like your personal experience. Okay, coming to the frameworks that are related to all these technologies are like if you are going for Java, which is mostly used in web development, there will be uh, three main layers of the web technology. One is the database, one is the backend, and one is the front end. So the service layer or the backend layer is mostly built on Java, and that is mostly built on Spring Boot. That is open source, but companies like Amazon and Google, they'll have their own stack, but that is also built on Java mostly. So if you want to learn any like production level coding, production level server development, I would suggest go for Spring Boot. There are a few books I have suggested, like Spring Boot in Action is one book, Hibernate in Action is another book. Hibernate is basically the uh, it's part of Spring Boot, but it's a layer that connects the server to the database. So another book I've suggested is Head First Java. It's just basic fundamentals of Java. So I think most of you have read this book if you are like have studied Java or something. Yeah, coming to the Python development. So Python, Django is a framework built for Python, mostly for web development. Machine learning part, there are models, like there are some libraries, NumPy and all those libraries are there, Pandas, NumPy. So those libraries help you build machine learning models or analyze data. That is completely different. But Django is one framework that is used for web development, but it's very rarely used. Like Python is not really used for web development, but it's very heavily used in machine learning platforms. Now coming to the MERN stack part that I was talking about is JavaScript. So JavaScript is in the front end, you will see it's used in either Angular, React, or Vue.js. So these are the three main front end that is available as a open source. So most companies will be using them, but again, companies like Google, Amazon, or Oracle, these big tech companies, they'll have their own frameworks. Like Oracle has something called Oracle Jet as front end. Google has a Bok framework, Bok Viz. It's called Bok Viz. Amazon, I don't know what they have. Yeah, but they definitely have their own in-house frameworks. But if you want to learn front-end development with JavaScript, then Angular, React, or Vue.js is your option. In the backend, we use Node.js and Express.js. So uh, these are similar to like Node.js is equivalent to a language, Java, and Express.js is equivalent to a framework that is based on Node.js. So, like if you compare with Java, it is like Spring Boot. So basically, there is a language and a framework that you need. So to build a server. So if you are not going with the frameworks, if you are building with just simple language, you are building the whole thing. It will take you thousands of lines of code to do that. Build a server. But if you're going with a framework, then it makes your work easier. You can build with 3 4 lines and the whole framework will take care of it. The last one, C Sharp, or the .NET framework that is used mostly by Microsoft. Or if any service-based company is outsourcing work from Microsoft, then they'll use .NET framework. But it's mostly used in application development or some other kind of development, not really web development. But yeah, there are chances that might be used in web development. Okay. Okay, I'm going to answer one question. So, only companies expect front end and back end technologies, or will they expect to have knowledge in Docker, AWS as well? Okay, I'll come to that. Docker, AWS, and Kubernetes, all those things are required, but only if you are going for a SRE role, like software, not sorry, site reliability engineer role. Some companies do require a knowledge on that, but it's not mandatory. Like it's good to have, not uh, like required to have. Required to have are all the data structure skills. Like these frameworks which I'm talking about, these are also good to have. You don't necessarily need information on this one when you're applying for job to any of the big tech companies. But you are expected to know at least one framework. Any one of them is fine. Yeah. So coming to this part, things you need in your resume. The first thing basically you need is data structure and algorithm skills. So like if you're applying to any product-based companies, I'm not talking about service-based companies right now because they require skills in specific domains. Suppose you are applying for a project, like in if you are applying for a company service-based, then you'll be mostly assigned a project, and if the project is based on .NET or if the project is based on SAP, then you will require a knowledge on SAP or .NET. So that is completely project-based. It's very unpredictable which language might be required. ServiceNow and Salesforce are also popular languages that are required in service-based companies. But all the product-based companies have this one structure, data structure. I mean, like one this thing to select candidates, data structure. So that you definitely need to have. It's language agnostic. You don't need to learn it in any particular language. You can solve it in C++, Java, or Python, JavaScript, any language of your choice. They don't really expect you to solve in any language. Next thing you need is personal projects. So why I was talking about the frameworks is basically if you're building some project, you are likely to use one of those frameworks because that helps you make your work easier and it is more relevant to the production code. Internships and experience are required. So as a fresher, you might need few internships in few companies. Uh, how do you get an internship is pretty tricky because I got it through campus. You can try off campus as well if there are companies interviewing for, but mostly they'll ask some of the data structure and algorithm. Like the questions are based on data structures and your coding knowledge. The next thing is you need to, in the resume, you need to describe what all tasks you have done in your experience. A lot of people make this mistake, like they don't really describe the work that they have done in that internship or in that company. You need to describe what all technologies you used and what all you have built, not the team has built. Like what all contributions come from your side. Like if you have built some feature in some product, you need to mention that. Second thing is coding platforms and profile links. So basically, if you are already into coding, then you need to put some links of your profiles like Lead Code, Hacker Earth, Hacker Rank, whatever, wherever you have solved code. It should be a public profile and you should mention it in your resume. If you have some achievements, that is nice to have actually. So basically, if you have participated in some competition like Code Jam, Hacker Cup, Facebook Hacker Cup, Google Code Jam, Google, what is that? Kickstart. So all these competitions you have participated and got a global rank. So you can display that rank in your achievements. If you're building some project, it's better to have like put it in GitHub and put a link on the resume so that somebody who is seeing that you have done a project, they know that what is the source code or how you have built the project. Like you're not faking it. So that's mostly it for your resume. We'll see if somebody has a question. Next thing I'll come to is the coding platforms that are most popular. So Lead Code is the most popular one, I guess, throughout the world. Like people will ask you if a question is Lead Code hard or Lead Code medium or Lead Code easy. And just to judge the level of the question, it is Lead Code is that popular. So if you're getting a question in an interview, somebody is asking how hard was it, usually developers will say it's Lead Code medium or Lead Code hard or Lead Code easy. Like that's the rating they give. Interviewbit is one of the platform I used to use, so it's more like concise, or should say, the questions are based on topics, so it was easier for me. Hacker Rank, I did practice a little bit. Again, it's similar to Lead Code. It's popular in India, I guess. Hacker Rank, Geek for Geeks. I don't know if they have a practice platform, but they do have a lot of questions and solutions. CodeChef is if you're into competitive coding, that is good. Hacker Earth is also into competitive coding. But if you're planning to give interviews or get into companies, then CodeChef profile, like it's good to show off, but then the questions that are asked in CodeChef are never really asked in interviews. So there is a difference between those questions. Mostly, if you solve Lead Code, then I think all the questions that are present in lead code, you will easily get them in your interviews. Uh, can you explain the question, Sidhu? Considering the above case, what will you suggest to change the career track? Okay, sorry, I didn't read the hard to move if you have industry experience, some other technologies. Okay, full stack career, if you already have experience in other technologies, it's not really hard to move. Like, I have seen a lot of people who have uh, their knowledge in SAP or any other service based kind of knowledge, ServiceNow or Salesforce, and they are able to move to full stack, provided that you are very strong in your data structure skills. You have to practice on your own, by the way. And you have some project to show them that you are able to code in full stack. Like, you need to build some personal projects. So, like, you need to take out time. It might take around 8 months on 1 year, so, but you need to be very good in your competitive, not competitive, sorry, data structure skills, uh, and your projects should be very, like, reasonable, not very small ones. I'll give you some ideas about projects in the end of the interview. Sorry, end of this session. Okay, coming back to this slide, the data structure skills that are, like, uh, usually asked in interviews. Uh, so we have arrays, which include sorting, searching. Binary search is one of the popular algorithms that are asked. Heaps, if you have heard or if you don't have heard, are kind of tree structures that have a few algorithms around it. Max heap, min heap, and heapify are a few popular of them. So basically, they'll never ask you the algorithm. They'll ask you to solve a problem which is indirectly based on few of these algorithms. Strings, bit manipulation, hashing are a few other algorithms that are not very much asked. Hashing is, maybe sometimes it will be asked, but not very popular. Trees and graphs are pretty popular among big companies. So DFS and BFS are depth first search and breadth first search. Trees will have other algorithms like finding least common ancestor and uh, finding errors in trees, binary trees, and all this tree algorithms. So yeah, I think you need to study mostly all the algorithms regarding trees. So yeah, graphs are similar to trees basically, and there are few major algorithms that are listed here. Dijkstra, Kruskal, Prism, DFS, and BFS are like mostly asked in interviews. So um, these are the name of scientists actually: Dijkstra, Kruskal, and Prism. DFS and BFS is common with trees. So depth first search and breadth first search. Dynamic programming is something related to arrays and strings. So basically, there are a lot of questions like least common subsequence, increasing subsequence, largest increasing subsequence. These are popular questions that are based on dynamic programming, and basically they're array questions, but like they're based on this concept called dynamic programming. Tries is one more concept. Uh, so tries are similar to trees, but they're used for dictionary searches. So if you want to search a word in a dictionary, then mostly people will use tries. So that are rarely asked in interviews, but then again, um, I have seen a lot of interviews where tries or implementation of tries are asked. I might have missed some of the data structures here, but yeah, these are the most commonly used ones that are asked in interviews. And if you are asking when are data structures used in, like, software development career, then I would say that I have personally used graphs in my coding. So I had few projects that are based on directed graphs. Hashing is mostly used in our career. Heaps might be used somewhere. Dynamic programming is again heavily used. it's basically caching. So if you have heard about caching, it's something related to dynamic programming. So, okay, coming to the next slide. Okay, I talked about giving some project building ideas. So I've listed down a few of the popular items that are usually also having a lot of design implementation, like high level design, low level design implementations, and are full stack kind of projects. So these are mostly web based. You can also build a app like Android application out of them. So book library is basically managing books. So if a person can add his books, read some books and see the progress of how much he or she read, and also like there can be payments linked with when you're reading a book, you have to pay by like per book or something, payment links and all. So then movie booking system is similar to what Book My Show has. So you can book seats, you can book halls, you can book movies. Um, yeah, you can pay for them, you can cancel them. All those features are required. Calendar memo application is something like you want to remember something in your calendar, you want to put a reminder of it, put an alarm for it. Maybe once the date comes, it will automatically send emails to you or like send messages to you, something like that application. Train booking is similar to what Paytm or ISATC have. So just finding out which train goes to your current location and your destination, listing out the trains, prices, class, and you get to choose that. Searching trains, booking trains, and canceling trains, paying for the trains. So all these features comes in. So basically, if you build any one of this app, social media is again like something called Instagram Messenger, not Instagram Messenger, like Instagram newsfeed or Facebook newsfeed, where people can post, like, comment kind of feature. So once you build this kind of application, you will have a better idea of like how databases and applications are managed. So this is like a small scale model, not really a heavy, huge application that has a lot of features. Like you first need to decide what all features do you want in your application, the basic required features, not the good to have ones, and then you can start building this. You can post the link of like once you build the project, you want to push the code to GitHub and maybe like host this application in some free server, like Heroku is one of them. Some other softwares like AWS gives you 1 year free hosting. So you can use any one of them and you can host your application, but that is not necessary. Just posting your source code to the GitHub is fine. Okay. Yeah. Coming to the question that Sidhu asked is what all skills are required, like Kubernetes, AWS, all those things. So this comes under cloud knowledge actually. So Kubernetes and AWS are heavily used in cloud services. Networking basics include information about how internet works, how HTTP connections, how TCP protocols, and all this HTTP3, HTTP2, other networking basics. And operating system basics include like how CPU, RAM, and everything works, how you can allocate resources, or how multi-threading kind of works, or how CPU threads work, what is CPU thread synchronization, and all those stuffs. So basically, the knowledge of multi-threading is mostly required. That you are also expected to write Linux commands, because most of the software and most of the log, like when you are running a software, there will be a lot of logs generated of like how your software is running. Those are on Linux computers. So all the software in the world is mostly hosted in Linux machines. So you are expected to go to the Linux machine, browse through, see the logs, or write some command. Like in our day-to-day life, like in big tech companies, we usually code in Linux machines. So we don't really code in Windows machines. So you should be able to write Linux commands. Okay. Yeah, cloud services basically, if you know, that is good, but if you don't know, they'll definitely teach you, or you can learn it by yourself. But yeah, if you are going for that, you will most probably end up in a AWS admin or Azure admin kind of role, or site reliability engineer kind of role, not really a software kind of role. Like generally you are required to have small knowledge of that if you're working as like software developer, not like AWS admin or um, DevOps kind of engineer. So uh, those kind of people will require heavy knowledge on that. So you need to choose your path. Like if you want to go to pure development, or you want to go to uh, DevOps, or you want to go to maybe software development test, or there are a lot of profiles actually. Like not all companies will require all software developers. Like every company requires a software admin or AWS admin, not AWS, like cloud admin. Every company will require infrastructure engineers or SREs. So you need to choose your career path, what you need to do. Okay. Last, I'll come to how to apply to jobs. So this is most asked question I get. So I have profile in mostly all of them. So uh, I do apply from LinkedIn job section. There is Naukri.com, Indeed, InstaHire, Hirect, TopHire. All the sites are mostly popular ones that are used in India. If you want to search jobs outside of India, Europe, maybe, then you mostly have to go through company portals. In India as well, like you can apply directly through company portals in their career section. Referrals usually help only if you know the person who is referring you. If you just randomly approach somebody in LinkedIn or somebody anywhere else to ask for their referrals, that don't really work, because there is a section where you have to tick mark if you know the person or if you don't know the person, and nobody's gonna tick the know the person if you really don't know the person. So those kind of referrals generally don't matter much. If you really know the person, and if you like vote, like vouch for that person that he is a good software developer, then only the referral counts. But yeah, for interns, you can try for referrals from unknown person as well, provided that you have a very good portfolio, like you have uh, participated in good competitions, or you've got good ranks, or you have a good lead code profile, or any other profile, or you have previous internship experience, something like that. Okay, that's it mostly. If you have any questions, you can put it on the chat. I can answer them. If you don't have, then we can end this session.
I think some of them having questions at chats. They're asking about career change, like how they can change their career track.
Yeah, I so basically career change if you want, then like it's never too late to change your career. Like I have seen people who have changed career even after 5 years of experience or 3 years of experience. So like basically you need to be very good in coding. Uh, if you are applying for jobs that are related to software development, and you are suppose from a manual testing background that does not deal with development in any way, then you should have profiles in some of the coding background, like coding sites like lead code or interview bits or hacker rank or somewhere, or you should have participated in some competition, or at least you should like showcase the recruiter that you have done some development. Like, yeah, if like for big companies, they it doesn't really matter what you have done previously, or if you are from computer science background or if you're from electronics background. They'll just see if you are able to code for them, if you are able to generate some good, like, you generate wealth for them basically. If you're able to code softwares, then they'll hire you. Okay, I have one question. Can you suggest some good platforms or lectures for data structures? So, data structure, I would suggest Geek for Geeks self-paced course is a good one. It's very cheap, and you have a lot of data structure covered. You can go to YouTube and search for videos individually, topic wise. So I already gave the topics that are mostly used. So coming back to that slide, yeah, this one. So these are the topics that are generally used. You can search each and every algorithm on YouTube. You'll find it mostly. Lectures are pretty, like, if you are participating in some career coaching or something like that, they'll charge some fee, because like that is, if somebody is explaining you some data structure, then they'll have a lot of knowledge and they'll expect some payment out of it. But if you want it for free, then YouTube is the best place. What should one do if he or she feels he's stuck learning one thing and is not improving? I would suggest, like, if you're stuck in one problem, then keep it in your backlog. Move ahead, learn something new. Usually, what happens is if you are stuck in some problem, then uh, I'll spend days and then like I'll just leave it out, and then maybe after 2 3 days I'll come back to that same problem, and it will be maybe a fresh mind. I'll solve it easier, or I'll solve it faster. So maybe just try something else and keep it in your backlog. Come back to it after maybe 1 week or 2 3 days or something. If okay, I hope that is the question. If you are talking about being stuck in the company, that you are not learning something new, then you have to learn it on yourself. Like, usually companies will have a pretty solid tech stack. They won't really differ from the tech stack, and if you want to learn something, then you have to learn on your own. Basically, we always learn, like software developers are always learning something new. So you have to learn it on your own. In order to get into top product-based companies as fresher, along with strong knowledge of DSR, project and full stack development compulsory, or project and ML and data science are good enough? See, it depends on which track you're going. If you are being hired for a machine learning role, then machine learning uh, eh, projects are required. If you're getting hired for a full stack role or a back end or a front end role, then you need projects relevant to that. So whatever role you're applying for, the projects need to be relevant to that. As a fresher, uh, you don't really get much of a choice. It depends on your luck, which profile they'll put you in. But like whenever there is mass recruitment, if you are specifically applying for some role, then you need to have project related to that. Okay. Does fresher get full stack web development job offers from campus, or does any company related to it come to recruitment on campus? See, full stack, like most companies, they don't tell it is full stack, but it's ultimately it is full stack. But you can also start your career with backend development or front end development, and then like move to full stack in some other companies, because everybody is called software developer. Like, usually a backend developer can also do a front end. It's like it takes a while to learn, but then again they can learn. So it doesn't necessarily need to start as a full stack. And companies that come to campus, it depends like what they're hiring for. Companies like Amazon and Google, they'll mostly hire full stack developers because they don't really have a category for backend. They expect everybody to know everything. If there are companies specifically hiring for front end or back end developers, then they'll just mention it in the resume. But you can always share your full stack projects to them, and it'll qualify for that. Does any company related to a direct? Okay, sorry. How much time does it take to learn React JS? Depends. If you know JavaScript, then learning React, it took me around 2 months maybe. But also, the fastest way to learn is build a project out of it. So whatever you're learning, you try to see how the production level projects are, and maybe build something. Then it will be easier for you to like learn it or memorize it. Or else, if you learn something by theory, then it will forget in like 1 or 2 months later. You will forget it. So I usually prefer building like whenever I'm trying to learn some technologies, I'll build a very small application out of it, and then I'll try to add some features on top of it. I'll try to search how to add those features. So I'll basically go deep dive into that technologies or that framework. Yeah. Okay. I think if we have no more questions, so should we end this?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, so thank you, Kundan. It was a wonderful and interactive session.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now I'm just going to share the attendance form in the chat box. Kindly fill the form accordingly. You will receive the certificates.